Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. On today's episode, we are going to make my whole wheat homemade bread. For the last couple of months, we'll not be buying bread from the store. We normally make our own at home and it's so easy. The loaf I'm going to show you today is a daily free option, and I'm sure and certain you have all the ingredients at home. Probably you only need 2 ingredients I probably don't have on every other day basis, like the yeast and the whole wheat flour. But otherwise, apart from those 2, the other ingredients, I'm certain you normally have them in your household. So let me show you how I normally do it, so that next time when you need bread, you have an easy recipe to follow and that you're gonna enjoy homemade whole wheat bread at the comfort of your home. You need very simple and few ingredients to make your loaf. I've measured out what I need and I'm going to show you what exactly I need. I'm making 2 loaves of bread and this is the much I need. This is cooking oil. If you don't want to use cooking oil, you can use butter instead, but I'm making a dairy-free option. That's why I'm using cooking oil. I'm also using water. I've already measured it out. And if you're not intolerant with dairy, you can also use milk or a combination of milk and water, or even coconut milk. Then there is yeast, there is sugar, and there is flour. This is a combination of 2 flours, all-purpose flour and bread flour, whole wheat bread flour. I'm gonna make sure there's a link to the detailed recipe on the description box. Then here I have salt and 1 tablespoon of sugar. The reason I've put this sugar here is because I will need sugar and yeast to bloom, but I'm not going to put all the sugar and yeast to bloom at the same time, so it's the extra that I've put here. And the handy thing that you normally need when baking bread is a scale. This is the heart of everything that you ever need in baking, because baking is a science, and once you have your ingredient measured out precisely, your bread comes out great, or any baked good that you're going to bake comes out great. So I've used this scale to measure the flour, to measure the water, and to measure the oil. The rest of the things I'll use a teaspoon. That is the yeast and the sugar and the salt. I'm using a teaspoon. So let's get to blooming as we proceed. I'm going to use a stand mixer, but you can use your hands. I prefer a stand mixer because I have one and it makes my work easier, but you can do this process of kneading using your hands. So let's get to it. Oh, before we get to it, we need to heat our water, to warm our water so that it is lukewarm before we mix in the sugar and the yeast to let them bloom for about 5 minutes. So let's warm the water, then mix the yeast and sugar plus the water. I'm going to use the microwave to heat my water for about 1 minute 30 seconds because I'm doubling the recipe. So in here I'm going to add the yeast and the sugar. Let's start with the sugar, and since I'm making 2 loaves, I'm going to measure out 4 tablespoons of the sugar. The total amount of sugar is 5 tablespoons, so 1 tablespoon is not here, we'll add it later. Then I'm going to measure out 4 teaspoons and a half of the yeast. And a half. If you're making 1 loaf, just half the recipe. When we are done with our yeast and sugar, let's add in the water. So in goes our warm water. Then we whisk for it to combine properly. Then give it 5 to 6 minutes to bloom before we add in the rest of the ingredients. So the yeast has perfectly bloomed. Now we are going into the next step. I'm gonna close the mixer. Then we start adding in our ingredients. I'm starting with the cooking oil. To be a little noisy, but we go ahead. I'll add the cooking oil for a few minutes, then proceed with the flour step by step, then go into the salt, then back to the flour, and our dough will be done. So I've left a little bit of oil. We are going to use it to oil our baking pans. So in goes the flour, little by little. This process takes about 10 minutes and we are done. At this point, I can add in the salt. The reason why you don't add salt immediately is because you don't kill the yeast. That's why I'm adding the salt at this point with the little sugar that was remaining. Then I continue with the flour as we proceed till the dough forms. I will set aside a tablespoon for dusting and also using in our baking tin. Then the rest goes in. So at this point, I want to close here so that the flour does not spread everywhere, and increase the speed for it to continue kneading. Once the flour is all gone, I can easily remove this because this was to protect the flour from spreading everywhere, and continue kneading without the shield. At this point, the mixture has done its job. It's been 10 minutes. We're gonna switch it off. And once we switch it off, we remove the dough. And allow it to proof. So we set this aside. Here we have our dough. All you need to do is proof it. I'm going to transfer it to this bowl. First of all, before I transfer, let me put it here on the counter. You can actually use this to proof, but I prefer using a different bowl because of how airtight the bowl I'm using is. Just cleaning this up with a little flour that we had set aside. That's about it. It's not actually kneading, it's just forming a ball. And you put it in the bowl. This is how perfectly the mixer does the job. But if you don't have it, no need to worry. Please go ahead and use your hands. The work is still the same, it's only that it is a bit tiresome, but that's all about it. So I'm placing the dough there. Then cover it. These airtight bowls are available to our gadgets page. You can check them out. Make your kneading work easier. So that's how I'm sealing it. I'm placing it in the oven with the light on for 30 minutes. Then after that, we will continue to the next stage. So placing it in the oven with the light on for 30 minutes. So as that goes, let's prepare our baking tins. So remember the little oil that I reserved from this when we were putting it in with the flour and the yeast mixture. Here's what I used it for. So I'm gonna brush it around the baking tin. It's about a teaspoon of that oil on each baking tin. So just brushing it around on all the corners, the sides, so that the bread does not stick when you're baking. It will come out perfectly baked. So I'm using a pastry brush, always an easier option. Let's do this to the next one. Please do not skip this process. Alternatively, you can use a baking paper or a parchment paper. I prefer using the oil and the flour method. So once it's perfectly oiled, I'm gonna dust a little of the flour on the sides. Just a little of that flour on the side. Then shake the pan, rather the tin. That's more than enough for that one. Go to the next one. Remember, this same counter is the one we're gonna roll our dough, so this flour is not going to waste. And that's about it. Our tins are ready for the dough. So we're gonna set this aside and wait for the dough to proof, then we proceed to the next step. So it's been 30 minutes. Look at how that bowl has it's almost popping up. This is the goodness of using an airtight bowl. If you were to give it a few more minutes, it would actually pop out. So let's open and see our proofed dough. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. So all we need to do right now, we need to divide it into two, roll it out into our baking tins, ready for the second proofing. Then we proceed to the next stage. That is how you clean up that dough. So I'm gonna place it here on the counter. Look at how stretchy it has become. Still use the same flour to clean up. We're gonna use the bowl to measure it out. We will need our scale. I'm going to try and divide it into two for the two loaves that we are making today. At this point, I'll just eyeball the cutting the dough into two. Then we will use our scale to help us know exactly how much that dough is, so that the bread is equal. So put the bowl on top of the scale, zero it out, and place the dough. Since I've made this bread for so long, I know ideally how much I'm looking at. Should be around 900 and something. You can start with that for the first one. And check the second one. That is the same. It's slightly below. Get it to 40. That is how this small piece is important when you're measuring out. 941. 940. Yeah, so we are ready to roll out our dough. Let's start with this one. A little flour for dusting. And a rolling pin. That's all you need. So I'm trying to make it like a rectangle before I put it into the baking tin. This is pretty much the process of making a cinnamon roll. I could actually use this same dough for a cinnamon roll. Probably that's a recipe I need to share, or rather a video, because I have a recipe on the website. So it's pretty much the same process. Then now we roll it over into a log. In case of any sticking, I use my dough scraper. Then try to pinch and flatten the edges, or rather the ends, and place it into the baking tin. Always this side down where they are meeting. Place it into the baking tin like that. So let's roll the other one. A little of that flour. Make sure it does not stick as much. And roll it out. I think that's good enough. The second log is ready. Into the baking tin it goes. So there you have it. These are ready for the second proofing. Another 30 minutes. I'll do half of that in the oven with the light on, then remove them, do the other 15 outside the oven as I preheat it for those next 15 minutes. Always cover when you're proofing. I use the lids of these tins to cover. So I'll show you how it looks like in the next 30 minutes before we bake. Now it's been 30 minutes. Let's see how they have proofed, ready for baking. Look at how risen they are. So right now I'm gonna bake them as they are. You can also do an egg wash on top if you want a glossy finish, but I don't mind doing it the way it is. So let's go to baking for 30 minutes at a preheated oven of 180 degrees. It's been 30 minutes, our breads are ready, so it's just removing them from the tin. That's how easy it is to remove from the tin when you have prepped it nicely. Here is the second one. They are pretty hot. So all you need to do is let them cool while covered with a kitchen towel, a clean kitchen towel. Then we will slice them later. I'll show you once we slice them how they look like, or when we are slicing. So right now, just let them cool down completely while covered so that they don't dry out. That's the other secret. So catch you later when we are slicing them. So it's been quite some time and our breads are already cooled down. This is how it looks like. So let us slice it together and see how wonderful it has turned out to be. I love using my bread knife for this particular purpose. It's actually a bread knife, so slicing a bread is what it should be doing, plus other pastries. But let me tell you, this knife is a game changer. You see how it is leaving no crumbs when you're slicing the bread? That is how good it is. And it was available at our gadgets page. The next time you see it available, please run and get it for yourself. So this is how pretty that bread looks. and fluffy. Look at it, very, very fluffy. Look at that slice. I've done quite chunky slices. Look at how it looks, how nice and lovely it looks, ready to be slathered with butter or even whatever spread you'd like. You can also use this bread to make some sandwiches. It will be so lovely and you're gonna love it. Or even toast it on a pan or a toaster, or even make some French toast using this same recipe. So once it is all sliced up, I love storing it either in a bread server, a Tupperware bread server, or, so this is called a Tupperware bread, either a Tupperware bread server or a Baker's Delight. This is a Baker's Delight. So handy when it comes to storing bread. It keeps on the counter fresh till the last bite, and you're gonna love it. So just that's how it looks like, and you close it like this. I had a previous bread baked, and here's how I stored it. The bread server. These are items that we normally sell on our gadgets page, so be sure to check them out whenever we have them on stock, and grab yourself one or two so that you enjoy fresh pastries through and through. So in case you get to try this recipe, please let me know how it turns out on the comment section down below. Remember to like the video, share it with your loved ones so that they can try the recipe as well and enjoy it as you enjoy it yourself. And also remember to hit that subscribe button so that anytime we upload a new video, you're among the first people to be notified. Until next time, happy baking!